Podcasting with Ceri Jones.
Hi guys, and welcome to this week's podcast. I hope you're all able to get out and are catching plenty of fish. I've had a busy week, starting with some bass fishing with Devon angler Lewis Hendry, a great guy. In case you missed it, tune into last week's episode. I then travelled to Hampshire to meet up with two lovely people, Gilly Bate on the River Test and Peter Cockwell down at Diva Springs. I wasn't fishing at these venues, just doing some photography, and both these features will be in the upcoming summer issue of the Flyfishing Journal. It's been a bit of a marathon, as I then travelled up to Rutland Water for a 3-day trip with some friends. Fishing was tough, but I did manage to catch a few each day on suspender hares ear mainly. The last day, however, I targeted the big browns, and I did manage to get actually another spiky for the week. But this time, a big perch, around about £3. And it was here, while I was at Rutland, I decided to have a chat with my guest for this week's episode. He's been an Anglian Water Ranger for 30 years, and he has caught both big rainbows and browns during that time, but mostly by fishing his preferred and most successful method of fishing the floating fry pattern, usually at the back end of the season, and other roach and perch imitations which he has. And on this episode, he also talks of what to expect the next few weeks, including the pin fry, and gives his choice of flies to bring success. Welcome to my chat with Nigel Savage. It's good to meet you, Nigel, again.
Yes, but for once we're both sitting down, not standing up.
I know.
You go either way fishing or whatever. Just getting away fishing sometimes.
And you're such a busy man. Every time I see you, you're sort of like going from one place to the other.
Yeah.
And being as you're a ranger here.
Yeah.
How many years have you been here?
Starting 92.
3 years? 30 years? 30 years?
Yeah.
Jesus. Because I remember your face way back. Because you started doing stuff quite early on, didn't you, in the intro fisherman?
Yeah, I was asked to do articles. I've never wanted to push myself fishing, but people asked me. I said, "Look," I said, "if you want me to do an article with you, I'll happily do it for you."
Yeah. And do you still do much now? Articles?
No, I mean, sadly the trout magazine seems to have slowed down a bit, and of course I've changed me, not sex, but I've changed me the targets for my pike fishing. I still love me trout fishing. I'll go from like 5 and 6 weight rods for trout and then 10 weights for the pike. So
yeah, you do like your pike, don't you?
Yeah, it's always been a fascinating species for me personally, but it's just getting them on the fly and feeling something substantial, grab hold of the fly line and tighten up the way you go next.
I'll get onto the pike in a minute, but one thing I want to start with, it's been a tough day today. Like I've been out since, I don't know, about 10 o'clock, and it's sweltering heat, but did manage to get a few fish. But as we were coming in now, just before you come into the harbour there, I saw this fish on the surface.
Right.
And then we netted it, and he was half alive. And I'll have to show you the picture of it, actually.
Yeah.
So brown, and you could tell it was brown about £5 plus.
Yeah.
But it's easy to see, plain to see. It's like you could put the hand in there. And I didn't, until you said it was probably an osprey, and that made sense to me.
Yeah, I've seen a fish before like that. Obviously, the talent of an osprey is impressive, to say the least. And if it's like a grip hold, there's no other.
You can put your fingers in it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But when you first mentioned you saw this brown trout flounder, I thought somebody had hooked it and played it for far too long. But then you mentioned the hole straight away. I thought osprey.
Because I don't think ospreys dive down, do they?
No, they're more. They've got the or like clawed version of drones where they can see. They're up above and they can see the fish around.
I'm surprised it's a brown.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think a brown would be up on the top.
Well, after this season, every year's different, as you probably appreciate. But this year's been truly remarkable as regards these fish feeding the surface, and for the local dry fly enthusiasts and nymph fisherman, it's been a superb year with fish rising, taking these shrimp in such shallow water.
Well, while I saw you briefly before I headed out this morning, you were saying just that, to head for the sides.
Yeah.
And because we went up to the pipe, our blue pipe, and we drifted down the east wind, drift down to No Mountain Church.
Yeah.
But there's bushes before, isn't it?
I know
It slowed down after that. the fish.
Yeah.
It goes for some reason.
It's
Deeper,
just,
is it?
It's just slightly deeper. That's all.
Yeah.
It seems to be magnetically drawn to like between a foot and 3 foot.
But
There are fish further out, but
Yeah.
it's just magnetic to fish for them as well.
Funny thing, what I found was, like, there were fish literally 2-3 foot off the shore, but they were boiling and rising.
Yep.
And I was covering them, but I wasn't getting no response.
No.
But if I was covering 20 to 30 foot out, they were coming.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't know. So I managed to pull 2 quite quickly.
Yeah.
On dries. I tried the nymphs first of all, and I can see when I said I was sticking the nymphs on, you would probably didn't want to say, but I could see you were saying you should be putting dries on.
Yeah, I would. If a Ceri rising fish, 9 times out of 10, I'd stick
Yeah.
a dry on. I'd even forsake the nymphs, which I used to look at nymph fishing, but no greater sight than seeing a fish come to you, fly, roll over it.
What I can't figure out was, you're saying they're feeding on the shrimp, but they're on the surface, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I've not witnessed it personally, but an angler the other week said he saw this shrimp dart into the surface for some unknown reason.
Yeah.
You see that sort of trout come up and take it and roll back down, but the take is so gentle, it's not aggressive.
It is, yeah.
It's not as if it's like a crickster food where they're going all over the place. The shrimp must make like a steady rise, and then the fish partakes and drops all basically.
So after about about an hour down there, the fish I was having there was sort of about 1.10, 1.12, I'd say. And then we decided to move, and we went up to Old Hall Bay, because you mentioned Old Hall Bay.
Yeah.
Went there and straight away, bang, into a fish. But that was a good 2-pounder. Then another one, then another one. So they were a different stamp of fish, but they weren't showing. They were like, you're just fishing dries, and they would come.
You're obviously in depths, not
Yes.
great depths, but like 10 times deeper than what those fish are on the Normanton Bank, because some of those fish on the Normanton Bank, when I've been there, you've seen these great big spade tails of browns moving, and it's like jaw dropping. Is it going to take the fly or not? And then sometimes you hit one, and it just goes screaming off. I haven't caught any of these massive rainbows there, but I've had not huge brown for Rutland. Don't get me wrong, not being blasé, but I've had £6 plus fish and £5 plus fish, and it's always a mystique of what fish are going to turn up next. And sometimes you see these big square tails come up and big gap between nose, dorsal, then the tail fin. You think, yeah, it's a big fish.
The thing is, I think probably, and you mentioned earlier, is either fish early morning or the evening last night on the bank, because all those fish today would have been covered easily, couldn't they?
Yeah, the thing is that if they're what these people have told me, because I put them in fish back, what they've killed, they've got either shrimp in them or snails. Now, it's not as if there's a hatch going on. These shrimp are there all the time. And this movement they're occurring while they come to the surface, I don't know. I'm not actually seen a shrimp come to the surface, but these head and tail rise and the shrimps and fish feeding shrimp seem to go together. But
the guy was prepared when I came up there, sir. In fact, there was time flies last night in the accommodation in Oakham for pin fry.
Yeah,
It's too early.
These 2 guys have been out today, and they said they saw fish further out, which in their minds, I'd have to be there to confirm it, but they're well-respected anglers, and said they looked like they were chasing pinfrogs, and they were undulating around in circles rather than a steady rise if they were taking buzzes.
It's a big difference to see it when it's happening. Big difference, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's a different
Unmistakable.
rise, but it's exciting. But then you got to try and plot which way that fish is going to go to next, rather than just not leaving it.
Because you were working as a ranger here, do you get much chance to actually fish? Because when you time off, do you actually fish?
Yeah, well, ages obviously caught up with me, as it does with everybody, but I'm only part-time now, so I get plenty of time to go fishing. And I'm only at Edith Weston, so
you can walk it probably there.
You can be a bit blasé when the water like this on your doorstep, but when the fish are on, it's like anything. Sometimes you'll get a phone call saying, what's happening in fishing? It's fishing really well at the moment. I'll come 2 weeks' time. So it might be all over. If you can get ASAP, do it. Don't hesitate. But it's no use waiting, you know, for the buzzers to come and find out the buzzer patch for that year's finished.
Yeah.
You know, which happened to occur to a chap years ago.
Do you know what? When we staying in Ockham and we passed through Edith Western, is there a history behind that name? Is it a woman's name?
It is, yeah. If you go to the mini roundabout, there's a small plaque there, and it's made. I forget which period it was. I won't go into history too much, but it was named after
A woman.
yeah, a woman. Yeah,
Oh,
and obviously the name stuck, basically.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
So will you do much fishing now? This because the next couple of weeks this is going to get tough, isn't it? Well, I suppose if your pin fry is good.
Get tough. This reservoir's been fishing its head off for the people like myself and many more up around the bank, and they've all said the same thing. I've never seen it like this ever before, because say you're not dependent on these hatches that occur at the start of the season. Makes tiny buzzers. They finish and the bigger buzzers come on. Which, to be honest, I haven't seen many big buzzers coming off at all. Seen the odd one, but nothing in great numbers. But these shrimp are permanently here, other than being obviously the ones not getting eaten. There's always they've been, you know, these fresh ones coming through, and I think the fish will stay the same. The weed might make a difference if it does happen, because obviously when weed comes to the surface, it's in big mats. It does retain a lot of heat, which in theory pushes.
Does it?
But yeah, I can remember years ago, I hooked a fish on the end of a weed bed, and I stripped off this sort of weather. I thought, I'm not losing. I stripped down to me boxer shorts of all things, waded out to it. But as soon as I waded through the weed, in the cooler, what felt cooler open water, when I went through the weed, it was like tap water, warm water I was walking through. It was a really weird sensation. I actually got the fish out as well, which was about 2.5 pound rainbow.
Nice.
It was jammed in the weed. They've taken on a dry, but yeah, I couldn't believe feeling the weed, the warmth in the weed itself. But in the open water, the temperature was dropped.
You pointed out to me when we were on the walkway going out to the jetty today, the two different types of pen fry. But to me, I couldn't differentiate, only the size.
Yeah.
But you said because of the size, you knew which was which.
Yeah, I mean, I think the predator issue is, I mean, as regards fish full stop, not necessarily trout, but coarse fish, it's like pike spawn first, then your perch, then your roach and your zander and stuff like that. But the perch always seemed to me, it looks like they're hatching slightly before the roach. And I've actually witnessed a fish no more minuscule. If you go in Oldman, like 3/4 of an inch fish feeding on tiny fish for about 1/4 inch.
Wow, I didn't realise a different fish spawn at different times.
Yeah, I mean the pike are very. But I'm not talking about trout fish, but pike. They're the early spawners, and they seem to linger through. The bream are still pretty active. I saw some the other night in Fancy Island. I thought the trout. I thought too many of them. And then I realised, looking at the depth of them, they're definitely shoulder bream still hanging around. They're probably just cleaning themselves up now.
So the trout will take the perch fry as much as the roach fry.
Years ago, I can remember hooking a fish in East Creek just down the way from the lodge, and it was those days before fish were being killed, and fish were being killed rather than catch and release as we have now. And this fish, it got something like 52-inch perch in it.
Wow.
It was mental. It came up from a floating fry, took it, and I missed it. It came on again. Now, normally you don't get a second chance. But when I got home, I realised when I gutted it how many fish were inside there. It's got 3 sticklebacks, must have been the starter.
I'm surprised of that, to be honest, because there's a taxidermist in Ireland who's done 1 or 2 fish for me. And he said, of all the trout he's mounted, gutted, and done a taxidermy on, never has he had a perch in it.
No, it's not. Different here.
Yeah. And well, to be honest, I thought, I can understand why, because you can have spikes in it. Even if you hold it sometimes, it'll hurt.
Yeah, but I mean, if they're swallowing head first and the dorsal fin of the spikes is going backwards anyway, so they're going to be down a lot easier. I have actually witnessed trout that have died. We had one many years ago now.
Stuck.
I couldn't see anything wrong with it other than being on its last legs. So I put it out of its misery, about 7 or 8 pound fish. I knocked down there, took it in the gutting room, I gutted it, and there was the remains of looked like a dorsal fin of a perch in its stomach lining, and I think it had pierced its stomach lining, and it looked like it had poisoned itself. But Gordon Bloodworth all those years ago bought this trout, and it was a double figure fish, and I said, I haven't caught it, Nigel. I said, look what's in its throat, and it was I think I managed to pull the perch out. It was a 14-ounce perch.
14 ounces?
Rammed in its throat, yeah. And this fish was double figure. When I used to do the slideshows...
Was it brown?
Oh, definitely brown, yeah. All those years ago when I used to do slideshows, I'd put like unusual pictures, like the picture of the reservoir being frozen over and stuff like that. And I said to somebody, anything wrong with this brown, you think? And someone said, yeah, it's dead. I said, no, besides being dead, I said, what's that sticking out of its mouth? And it was this 14-ounce perch. It was I think it was a 12-pound brown. There's no estimates of predators when they're eating food.
Yeah.
They don't go around measuring tape thinking, is this going to be...
I suppose if you get stuck, because I remember fishing Loch Lean in Ireland once, and we were drifting. You could see this disturbance out in this bay, and then we would drifting towards it. I could see it was a brown. It wasn't £2 even.
No.
And it had a perch, probably about 6 inches,
Yep.
head first in his mouth, and he just couldn't do nothing.
Yeah.
So, because once it's in, you can't get it out then.
No.
You've got to take it down.
Yeah.
But different case, you can see why they like the roach.
Yeah. The roach shoals tend to be, well, unless they're really small perch, tend to be more in numbers, and they'll feed on anything that's going.
Yeah.
One of our browns in one of the cases there, chap had on a black buzzer, and chap called Dave Dakers. I said, you got any, Dave? He said, yes. He said, come with you. So what do you want to look at? I just want to see what I always used to like to see, because you see on a regular basis, because big fish knocked on the head. There's no catch on it, very rarely catch. And this, inside, although it was buzzer time, this had been feeding on buzzer. When he gutted it, it was a £half-pound roach in it.
Oh, was
8
it?
ounce
Yeah.
£half-pound roach, yeah. And that was its starter. People always think there's a certain time of year for fry feeding, but if those big fish know where the coarse fish are, even though technically or theoretically it's not fry time.
I'd love to troll this place with a roach.
Yeah.
I bet you'd have a surprise.
What I always say about this reservoir, as big as what she is, she has on most days got everything going for it. If not the angler, it's got everything going for the fish, because you've got great depths out there. You've got averages of 40, 50 foot. You know, waters like Chew and other shallow. I mean, I know some of the Scottish lochs are deep, but sometimes presenting the biggest lure or fry pattern ever is it's like a drop in the ocean. No needle in the haystack.
For the next couple of weeks now, then, what would be your top patterns?
As long as the fish are still rising, I'd still be using dries or emergers or suspender hairs or this shrimp pattern that's been evolved with foam tied across the back and then tied rough the hairs there in it. I tend to have a wide gold rib like the original, well, one of the original hairs. It was like quarter fur, quarter gold, quarter fur, and then it just sits in the surface, not on the surface. And it doesn't stick out like a suspender hair, so if you move it you can see it bow waving, but sometimes you see a rise. And
that's like most of the fish today, suspender hairs, yeah. But what about the pin fry? Would you have pin fry patterns?
Pin fry pattern, I still use it, probably greased up hairs there. You know, it's a great all-round pattern. The spikier the better. I stick to one fly as well, just in case there's a double figure brown at the minute knocking around the shoreline rather than fishing droppers. I know like people like using droppers. The thing is sometimes you'll get the big fish take the point fly or whatever, and then the small fish will grab the dropper, and then you lose the big fish, end up with a
What's your biggest trout from you?
It was a 11¼ pound brownie.
Wow.
That was many years ago. So I've not trout fished throughout the season for 20 odd years now. And the biggest ever rainbow was an ounce under 11 pound, and that was a grown on fish. That when I hooked it in Whitwell Creek, because Whitwell used to be a home of really seriously big fish, it took close in, but I just hung on. I wasn't playing.
On a boat now?
No, both on the bank.
All right.
Yeah, boat. I was more of a bank fisherman than I've ever been, but this rainbow just took. It wasn't jumping; it was cartwheeling all over the place. I had 12 pound double strength on. Remember that stuff? And I played it in, but when I went to net it, I was a bit disappointed because of its size. But then I realised there was a lump of weed had gone from head to tail, making it look shallow. Then when I took the weed off, it was a really, really deep fish. I had it set up, and a fiberglass cast made of it, but it was £10.50 now.
What did we catch it on?
Floating fry.
Oh, was it?
Oh yeah, even me. People used to say to me, "Oh, you do, Nigel, you fish floating fry at the end of the season." I said, "Well, you're catching fish like this. I'm not going to put a black tadpole in to catch stockfish."
Is that how you had the big brown as well?
Both of them, yeah. I used to catch a lot. I used to do articles on various magazines, floating fry. As regards floating fry, all those years ago, I mean, to fish a fly static seems unreal to a lot of people, but doing nothing can provide a lot. Many years ago now, he'll be probably in his 40s now, but this lad with his dad then, he saw me catch this £6 rainbow, clonking fish, really went like a missile when it went off. And he turned around and he said to his dad, he says, Nigel wasn't doing anything then. I wasn't being clever, because we were fishing it, I was imitating a dead fish. I just, not sarcastic.
Fish didn't make it dry.
I said, dead fish don't swim. Just leave it and wait. And it's the amount of...
Do you ever do that to twitch it though?
Oh yeah, of course do. Yeah, you sometimes, if you go to a fresh spot, like I was on about earlier on, going along the shoreline, I'd cast out over the weed, 1, 2, 3 sharp pulls, then leave it.
Right.
And then sometimes response was straight away.
Yeah.
Or if nothing happens, move, just keep moving.
Do they smack it then, proper smash it, or is it just gentle like that?
Sometimes it's just a rolling sensation, and it just tightens up, and you know, I never strike it. I've never been a striker with fly. I always pull.
Oh, right,
Be like a strip strike when we pipe fly fishing. I pull. If I see a fish come over them dry, I pull. I've seen other people strike. Some well-known anglers that we mention name, but he strikes and it connects. But I always think you've got a good chance of getting smashed off, because the leverage between the rod that's at horizontal to vertical, the amount of line that's being recovered in that when you strike is phenomenal. It's got to be, you know. But they do it. But if I see a fish come up, I just pull. And in theory, if you're moving it and the fly's moving, you're in contact. Yeah. So if a fish comes up to it, you do that. You never know for a fact that in that split second you've moved it slightly, whether you just move the fly to spur the fish on to take it. And it's great, but travel as if you're fishing a river on this reservoir. Because some of our regulars years ago, you just go to the Normanton Bank, stay in there all day and expect something to happen. I can remember one day when I was out there and I parked here, I fished from East Creek, and then I went all the way down to the Blue Pipes. But every patch of the weed, I was casting floating fry just the other side of it. And every now and again a fish would come up and take it, but they went dead. I moved. I got down to the bank where these regulars were, all lined up chatting rather than fishing. Well, they were fishing, but talking. They said to me, "How are you getting on, Nigel?" I said, "I've had 6. They went, 6? How the hell have you done that?" And I told them so. I said, "Where have you been?" So I went through all the areas I'd actually been. But I was prepared to move. Go on the attack, go after the fish. A bit like river fishing. You don't stay in one spot all day, you go on the hunt.
Quite, yeah.
That's me.
When you're fishing just the hills in Wales, really, the hill lakes, you just cast them more. You just covering fish all the time.
Yeah.
So it's a similar thing, I guess. Then.
Yeah.
But I remember, because one of the things I wanted to chat to you about when we were trying to arrange to do a podcast last year, and you were saying, because I said, I'm going to come back in September, October, and you said, no, it's not the same as what it used to be.
No, I mean, it was to be
December even.
Stating things what not right is always fatal in some respects. I mean, I probably did say at the time, but I was just on the edge of starting to fish the river systems for the pike. But being local, I was going down in the evenings, even though it was November. You'd only be getting dark by 4 o'clock. You get there about 2 o'clock. And
where's this now? Yeah,
on the dam. Yeah.
Right.
But we're floating fry or suspended minke.
On a dam?
Yeah, it's one of my favourites. The fish are not there this year. It's very unusual. But I've had some...
You can fish off the dam?
Oh yeah, you can fish off there, yeah. But it's not for the faint-hearted because of the rock formation and everything. But no, I've had some cracking fish. I've had a couple of years ago I had a brownie about 2 metres from the shoreline. I see it come up and it took me dry and off it went. It was great sport. But those fish in the winter time or November time, you'd be fishing, not always with the wind coming off your shoulder, but these fish being flat calm, you'd see them come up behind the fry. And it was, you always got the Jaws music in the background, and all of a sudden, the slow but sure, I wasn't stripping it, it was just figure of 8 in it, just bow waving it through the surface, and these fish were just like arrowing in, albeit haphazardly, as if it was being dragged all over the place. But then the line just goes solid. And I've always fished D-bob, and if the fish came off, so what? You know, but you know.
You fish a floating line, obviously.
Oh yeah, floating line. Yeah.
How big are the flies you used?
I used to use the old Aberdeen hooks, 2.0s, so they'd be quite big.
Oh right.
But I did have a photograph many years ago of the rainbow from East Creek again, £5 plus fish, with my size 2.0 fry pattern next to the mouth of this trout I'd killed. I'd spooned the fish, and my 2.5 3 inch perch was a lot smaller than the actual perch inside the fish.
Bloody hell.
So yeah.
I know you're saying things can change, but the thing is, everything's milder now. So would you target the fish? Because this place is open, isn't it, all through December?
Yeah, it opens. It stays open all the way into January. We only have a few people fishing in January, although sometimes, I mean, last year was, I did hear reports from people, a couple of lads who are fishing our boat club tonight, they had some really good sport in December, but they had the place themselves, you know. It's because people think, oh, it's December, it's cold. You've got to remember this reservoir takes a long while to cool down, like it takes a long while to warm up. So you've got to remember those factors. I mean, December, yeah, of course it's cold. The nights draw in about 3:30, 4 o'clock in December.
I fished it, I think it was the first week of September last year with Craig Barr. And we stayed by the tower in the North Arm. We didn't move.
Yeah.
We didn't move, that's all we did. Yeah. And we had a couple up to about, I think it was 5.5 to 6.
It's good fish.
That sort of size, but
they browns.
All browns.
Yeah.
All browns.
Yeah.
And they were coming up and turning away. No end of times, coming up and turning away, or you'd have the one on.
Yeah.
So it goes to show the head of fish, whether or not they're there all the time, or just at that end of the year they go towards that tower. I don't know.
That tower years ago, we had a survey. We had to do a survey because Grafton had contracted this killer shrimp. So John Marsh, my boss, then said, Nigel, you've got to go out with the Anglian Water boffin to see if we've got it. So we went out in the launch. He took a very fine mesh to scrape bottoms to see if he could pick these shrimp up. Didn't see any shrimp anywhere. So in many respects, I was a relief at the time because I didn't know what damage this killer shrimp's going to do. The rainbows and the trout at Grafton just loved the shrimp itself. But,
good feed, I suppose, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. You turn a stone over at Grafton, there's loads of them. Anyway, we got on the way, went all the way down to Tim Appleton from the tap. We went on the dam first with the scraper, checked it, no joy. Then we went down to Tim Appleton, no good. On the way back to the tower that you mentioned, the North Arm Tower, this was about September time. I'm looking into the water and I thought, hang on, pin fry, this time of year, September, so it's far too late. And then I looked again and the boffin confirmed, says that's the pink shrimp. So the pink shrimp's a free swimmer. In many respects, if you do a close-up, if you go on and take an image of a pink shrimp, look at it, it's more like a prawn in shape rather than a shrimp as such, if that makes sense. Like our indigenous species, the Gammarus, and then the demon, the killer at Grafton, the demon at Rutland. And this is the pink shrimp, that's a free swimmer. Now a few years later, record brown trout, which we've been looking at today, £17 before, I think it was, Tom Cooper, was caught by the tower.
Was it?
That
feeding
was
on shrimp, probably,
that was feeding on that pink shrimp allegedly, and probably maybe some of the smaller fish like your perch and roach that feed on the pink shrimp. You know, the vicious circle of shrimp being eaten by small fish being eaten by trout, and then trout also swims there because it just in the water. It's just it doesn't theoretically hide like the demon and the killer. It's just you can just swim through it with your mouth open, a bit like a basking shark.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
How big do you think they're in there?
Brownies.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
20?
Yeah, I would have thought so, but I'm surprised you've never been witnessed. I mean, there's well-known anglers who've caught some big fish. Some people underestimate, some people over-exaggerate, but it's just a mystery that Rutland is for many people, you know.
Yeah, but the thing is, you know, like the ferrox I'm catching, they're on pound roach. Like those fish out there now, no doubt if there's 20, 25 pound trout in there, they're never going to be looking at the fly.
Well, the thing is, if I've never done it, if I think if I fish the rudder method all season now, with stupidly big flies, you would probably catch.
Is that allowed now?
Yeah, you can still rudder fish. Yeah, it's not.
Does anybody do it?
No, people rudder fish, but they don't rudder fish. I mean, the old theory of the Bob Church way, the Northant style, casting the boats going downwind. You can use the rudders going to follow the contours of the land. You're casting at right angles, so as the boat's moving on, that line's then gone down. It's coming round in an arc, and it goes back up to the boat. It works very, very well. But most people nowadays, they just leave a line trailing out the back and talk, and then tell me the rod's been pulled over the side by a rainbow.
Yeah. Now, I did it many years ago. I mean, like 20, 30 years ago, maybe. I remember going to a do. There was a competition, and we were all at this presentation. And I was on the same table at the time. There was Bob Church was there. A guy called Frank Cutler.
Frank Cutler, yeah.
And there was Jeremy Urman as well next to me.
Yeah.
And then we were talking, and then I'm not sure what he was trying to keep me quiet, but Frank Cutler was talking to this guy, I don't know who he was, and I was like a sponge, like a magnet, trying to listen to what he was saying. And because he was catching them, a lot of them on the rudder.
Yeah.
And what he was saying, how much truth in this, I don't know. But he said from the tower to the other tower, there's a big pipe, straight pipe. He said goes from one to the other tower. I can believe that.
Where's this Grafham?
Here.
Oh yeah. The North Arm Tower going to the tower in the corner of the dam. Yeah.
And he said it's not on the bottom; it's raised. But he said it's full of fry. He said, and roach, you can imagine that.
Yeah.
So he says what he does, he just goes on the rudder, just in a straight line from tower to tower. Well, not he was doing it, but then afterwards I thought, I'm going to have a bit of this. As soon as I went home, I made a rudder. And I got this clamp, and it was in October time. And I drove all the way up here with my friend and down in one day. And he was like blowing a gale, tipping the marine, nothing. I haven't tried it since. But there's another guy, Toft, he does a lot of big fish here, doesn't he?
Toft is the premier big fish man now at Rutland. He's come
He doesn't fish a rudder though, no?
No. He fishes the humongous a lot, but people think that's all he does. Toft is very good at nymph fishing and dry fly fishing, I can assure you that. He catches a lot of really good fish. He had a number of fish at the start of the season, I think 50 plus, and I think he's gone over £5, and I think it's gone past that now. But no, he said his ambition this year was just merely to catch a £10 brownie on a buzzer. Because no, Graham Hayward, he went out a few years ago and he went to Hideaway Bay, and I thought, I think you'll do all right today because there's no other boat in there. I think he had I think it was a £13
Did
brownie.
he? Yeah. On a buzzer. How does it work then with the rudder then? You just drift, you're free drifting, but nose first, bow first?
Yeah, you bow first, but obviously you can follow the contour of the land if you wish. Some people just go on a straight line.
Yeah.
But if you're following the contour, theoretically you come to shallow, deep, and then, I mean, using various lines from the old lead core, shooting head and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you don't see nobody fishing like that anymore. Fred Wagstaff was renowned for it. But the thing is, those days, I mean, with the brown trout conservation, I no browns per kill whatsoever, they'd come in with like 16 brownies, £4 or £5 fish. I mean, some people caught that many in one season. They even bought another freezer to put the fish in. It was just a mentality, what it was, and that was the rule. It was 8 fish kill, irrespective. Then people said, well, let's stop putting 1 or 2 browns back, and that stuck.
When it comes to pike fishing here, like in Chew, near me, they have pike days there, there's pike anglers going on. You don't push that here, you don't do the same?
Well, it's changed quite a bit, because this year we've had 2 days, 3-day competition for lure fishing, which is to the rules. It doesn't start till September, but the company decided to have a 3-day match here 2 weeks ago, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the equipment they've got nowadays, spot locks, the iPod and stuff like that, and the fish finders, screens, you can actually dictate what.
Did they get any big fish?
Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah. If you can pick these fish up on the screen, you set the iPilot up, which is basically an electric anchor.
What's an iPilot?
iPilot. Well, if you see the old American fishing of like electric outboard on the bow of the boat, it looks it's a bow mounted electric engine, but it's an electric anchor. So if you're going along with your fish finder, you see, let's say a group of fish that you think they're big big pike or zander or whatever, perch, you switch the eye pilot on, that will hold you in station.
Wow.
Yeah. If a wave comes along, push the boat away, it will adjust itself and go straight back to that spot you pressed on the screen. It's an amazing bit of kit, but like
I was
everything,
surprised. I went to Grafham last, I think it was December, with David Hoppy,
yes, yeah,
zander fishing.
I know David.
He said, "We'll give it a try." I said, "Yeah, okay." And the gear the guys had.
Oh
there,
yeah.
It was a funny sort of day. It was a crap day, and it was one of those misty, dark days, right? And it hung there. It was a dirty, dark day, and it was like glass,
Yeah,
flat can.
yeah,
And all the boats are out because they have certain days for it.
yeah.
And there's one fish caught, because you do need wind, don't you?
Yeah,
to keep the boat
yeah,
moving.
Yeah.
And but I had the one hit, which I'm surprised he didn't had, and he was on for like, I don't know, 5-10 seconds, and then that was it.
Yeah.
But they're a funny looking fish.
They're a very impressive fish at any time, but when you see a big one, you appreciate the aggressiveness of its look. But I would never class a zander as a hard fighting fish. I mean, people catch these fish on the Severn, but if you're catching, let's say, or even on the River Trent, let's say you're a double figure fish, well, they are combating the flow of the respective rivers to their advantage. So if even fights, but I'd class the take as a zander as very, very aggressive. You know, they've got two sets of pectorals, two very large dorsal fins, but they're not great battlers. I'd never say I've had a cracking fight from a zander. They will hit the take. Obviously, if the fingers are really vicious, to say the least.
Yeah.
The fight is very much secondary. You know.
What he was saying, there's more chance of catching a zander here than Grafham, but Grafham got the bigger ones.
If I wanted a big zander, I'd go to Grafham.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, that'll be a goal for me now this winter. We can have
Yeah.
another couple of days there.
You see, the potential here is always, say, Grafham's got some definitely got deep water, but here it's got extensive deep water, you know. If somebody said to me, as a predator, I'm not so much feeding on trout, where would you go if you're a pike fisherman? I'd say go in the main basin, because there's normally stacks of trout in there. But you're talking the tower in the main basin, on the map, you're looking at to the right of it, you've got over 100 feet in old money.
If you're new to this podcast, consider becoming a Patreon, where you will get weekly podcasts as a chat with some of the biggest names in the sport. Some reservoir anglers, including Craig Barr, Gareth Dixon, Russell Owen, Simon Kidd, John Horsey, David Hoppy, Mark Regan, Jason Williams, plus much more. So visit patreon.com/casting with Kerry Jones. Or if you're interested in my guided and tuition packages, visit castingwithkerryjones.com. How did you start fishing then?
Well, I've got to get in touch with him, because we've not fished now when this guy that chap named Paul Smith, we've not fished for about 40 odd years. Great trout fisherman.
Wow.
And first we got into maggot drowning, like catching gudgeon and roach and stuff like that.
Are you originally from here then?
I was born in Nottingham, but lived in Leicester most of my life, and that's where I met Paul. But we started pike fishing the Friends Range with dead baits, stuff like catching pike, and then the zander, which were pretty new them days. And then on the way back, once we stopped off at Ibrook to wonder what all this fly fishing business was about. We're at Ibrook, there's an island there, and there's a stye. We went over there, we walked down to this bloke who was fishing, not realise we were endangering ourselves by being hit by the fly. We thought, bloody hell, he's dangerous, because obviously if you've got 20 yards of fly line in front of you, it's also behind you as well. So we then decided to take fly fishing up. We bought the necessary kit from the local coarse fishing shop. We've got the right kit. We went to a gravel pit and thrashed not so much the water to a foam. We were catching the fly in the back catch. We were probably going too far. No videos them days, or instructional courses. And but we got into it, and the very first fish was at the Ibrook. I've still got the baby doll I caught it on.
Baby
and
doll.
It was right at the top end in the shallow water. And after the umpteen cast, I went to lift the fly out of the water. It wouldn't come out. Then I realised I got my first trout, which was a brownie. It was about a pound, you know. But we're stuck to it ever since. We're going to buzzer fishing, and we used to troll round here with whiskey flies, fasting lines, on rowing boats going around the main basin. But then we got into Dryden and so we never looked back. We caught a lot of fish together. It really, really was. But Yeah,
So many flies we had years ago, but people don't even think of now.
No, this is it. There's always a progression, and there's some quite amusing stories of people say I've devised a new fly, and you think it looks like a beaver to me. You know, the official beaver. He says, yeah, but it's got red tying thread underneath it. I say, well, you can't see the red tying thread because you've got black chenille all over it. And it's there's always people who want to make an impression with the fly tying and everything.
I was talking to guys today, actually. I say, fish don't chase like they used to. But I'm thinking to myself, it's because we don't fish the same as we used to. We used to fish the muddlers, appetizers.
Yeah, or wet fly fishing. I'm starting to see dibbling flies, lifting 1, 2, 3, 4, back out and go. You look to swallow sometimes when they're around and creating them.
Yeah.
But great exciting sport. And I mean, those days before triploids, I mean, they're all diploid fish, male and females. Well, mainly female rainbows rather than the diploid. You know, the brown, the cock hen and hen brown trout that used to be around. But that used to be a sight. Behold, at the end of the season, Normanton Bank, those browns used to come in trying to spawn. They never did succeed. But you see huge fish, but black as your hat, but people still knocked them on the head. And they're either full of milt or full of eggs. But you see some double figure fish thrashing about, leaping.
Yeah.
And
well, at the end of this year now, I will be up for a couple of days, and I'm going to pick your brains. I'll fish the bank. Yeah. I will.
Yeah.
And see what hotspots you think is worth fishing. And get into something, nothing too big, you know, it'd be nice to have like a 6-7 pound fish or something like that.
Yeah.
Or those floating fries.
Yeah.
But have you got any goals this year?
No, I never have. I mean, I'm not a goals person, I just like my fishing full stop. I mean, big or small, obviously you like to catch big fish, everybody does, but the adage of it's fish for a lifetime, I think, well, steady on, you've only just been fishing, blah, blah, blah. But no, as regards goals, I had me 100th pike over £20 last year on the fly.
100th what?
100th pike over £20 on the fly.
Have you?
Yeah, I've been fishing 20 years. So
on the fly?
Yeah. So that was that, and people said, "Oh, well done." But it wasn't a goal. It just kept on coming on. I kept record. It was just on the day I was fishing, just a basic venue, fish caught, number, whatever. But no, I just like the thrill of seeing fish take the fly, sometimes pike even, you know, on the hang, memorable, you know. But see a big trout roll over it. I mean, I say I'm not trout fish consistent, but sometimes I think I'll ever go to the trout play for fans. I went to one of the old haunts 3 years ago over Ernie's Point, and the bloke fishing on Ernie's Point, but I was fishing just inside of it. Then he moved around a little bit more, but I was casting fry no more than about 3 yards out, and then maybe a bit more, but not much. And I just saw this floating fry, just leave it static, take it, tying into it, 9.5 pound brownie.
Wow.
Cracking fish. I was really pleased with it.
What time of year was this then?
Might have been September.
Wow.
What was been all about?
Early morning?
See?
Early morning?
No. I don't do many early mornings nowadays. It's probably about, what time would it be? About 4 or 5 o'clock.
Really? I can imagine. It's a special place to fish the bank. It's a special place now. We're sitting here now on the veranda, looking out, we're seeing anglers come in, the sun's starting to go down. There's a competition out this evening as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's our it's Tuesday boat club night, which is not necessarily locals. It's very much open to everybody, and it's a one fish kill, but they're allowed to catch 8. You can carry on after it, but we're only allowed 8 fish maximum. And do away and have a bit of a chinwag and start telling them stories from yesteryear and tell us another story, and I was on, here we go. But no, then some of them order food, think, well, I've got to go home tonight and cook food because I've got it being delivered by the local chippy. And then we have a cold drink, whether it's water but more likely beer than most people, and a good chinwag. So yeah, it runs for about 12 weeks basically. It's
an ideal place to work though. You feel lucky though.
Yeah, it can be interesting. It's in many ways. Working with the fishery, and I love doing fishing a bit. Working with general public can be quite interesting. There's some really strange comments at times. Now, you probably realise that Rutland Water's in the middle of England, or the country, England.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So one lady, bless her, she looked at the water levels. This was summer, so the water had gone down a bit through consumption and whatever, the hot weather. And she looked where the water was now to where the water had been, and she said, "Excuse me, is this tidal?" I said no, but just in case, don't park your car too near to the shoreline in case it comes back in my way. But yeah, it's amazing. The classic where you can see the church that's underwater. I thought, well, how would that be possible if it's underwater?
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed the chat.
No problem.
But there's one more question I want to ask, which I ask everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you want to be to make your last cast?
Where would I want to be? That's a tricky one, isn't it? Probably the dam.
Rutland Dam.
Yeah, as unsociable as it is with regards to its formation, but I've had some very memorable fish there. I've had my biggest ever brown from there, fancy, and but yeah, it's one place where you can hunt fish like sometimes you can on the river. Sometimes they're that close in. But fishing with Dave Doherty Curly over the years ago, we were like two animals on the heat, and we were clambering up and down. We were breaking the neck trying to cover these fish. In the end, so sod it and just wait for them to come through and cast these fish. They're pin fry feed.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Well, next time, perhaps we'll have a couple of hours with a rod, or even maybe over a pint or two, maybe next time.
My
Many
pleasure.
thanks.
My
Many
pleasure.
thanks, Nigel.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this podcast and want to listen to more, please consider becoming a Patreon, where you'll get weekly podcasts and access to over 125 episodes, behind the scenes photography to go with each episode, plus other exclusive content and prizes. To become a Patreon, visit patreon.com/casting with Ceri Jones, or you can find the link on my website, castingwithcerijones.com. That's all for now. Tight lines and don't strike too soon.